What's up, guys, boys and girls, anybody that's listening out there? It's coronavirus chaos going on out there. Now, the state of Pennsylvania, where I live, this is the weekly word, March 18 edition. The state of Pennsylvania where I live, they kind of shut down not all non-essential businesses. So I don't want to say going to the gym is non-essential and staying fit and active is non-essential. They just don't want you to do it in these closed quarters. So for me, typically I have more of a studio than a big gym. I can see these LA Fitnesses, these Max Fitnesses, these big clubs. I could understand why they want to close down for sure, just the amount of volume that comes through there. But with me, between me and the man, Big Frank, that I work with, we got anywhere from 25 to 50 people coming through there every day. So it's not too much, but there's a lot of interaction going on. And for us, it's a lot of responsibility on us to kind of keep that gym clean and keep it germ free. And with all the equipment that we have in there, with all the people we come in contact with, the handshakes, the high fives, I was concerned about just spreading these germs to other people. And, I didn't want to be a carrier that spread it to a kid that took it to the rest of his baseball team, or I didn't want to be, carrying this germ and feeling okay. But then I end up spreading it to somebody's grandparent who comes and picks him up one day, and then that person has some sort of, serious health risk, it's a health issue. And when you look about what's going on worldwide, I'm thinking to myself, little time at home might not be a bad thing. Decided to shut the gym down. So far, so good, but we're only 2 or 3 days into this thing, and we have no idea how long it's going to last. The numbers are what they are. They're not decreasing per se. They're on the rise every day that I take a look at it. So hopefully things get under control and we can get this gym back and rocking in the next couple of weeks. But really, all the schools are shut down. There's not much going on. Spring sports are pretty much shut down until further notice, which they might not even get their seasons in. It's kind of crazy. We're trying to eliminate contact with people, and that's pretty much the name of the game here. I'm trying to keep my little girl healthy, which I'm sitting in her bedroom right now. Got her Frozen poster right over here for motivation. We got her little horsey doll over here. We got an owl clock that I bought her before she was born. Looking pretty good. I got pink not everywhere, but yeah. So I'm hanging out in her room while she's taking a nap elsewhere. Anyhow, what I've been listening to, Joe Rogan Experience, like always, he had on Michael Osterholm, and I ended up buying this guy's book. This guy is, American public health scientist and a biosecurity and infectious disease expert. Before listening to this podcast, maybe 10 days ago, my level of concern concerning the coronavirus was fairly low, 5 to 10%. I was like, let's see what happens here. Let's let this thing play out. Italy's in shambles. Around the time I listened to this, I didn't know that. Their healthcare system was, at the time of listening to this, totally failing. They're choosing who's going to live and who's going to die, who's going to get the equipment, who's not. China's situation was what it was. The Wuhan province, whatever it's called, the district there. I knew about it. I didn't think that would happen here in America. We hear about these animal markets they have. I didn't know the extent of them, where you have 100 animals, say 100 options to get food in, like this little on this street market. They have chickens on top of ferrets in cages, on top of something in cages, and all of these animals can carry a disease. And that chicken might not be able to give me a disease per se, but they could pass it to that ferret that gives it to me, and I'm getting food cooked on site. There's killing animals and cooking it on site. Just the amount of potential for gross germs and bacteria to spread to a human is sky high. So my thought is we're not doing that here in America. Things might be okay. Well, things, after listening to this, they got a little bit more concerning. He said that in his opinion, the coronavirus is more like it's not like a blizzard. It's more like a winter. A lot of people, one of the quotes that he has then in one of his books is like, we were always underestimating, but being accused of overestimating. And I think a lot of the media in the early part of this thing, and a lot of our leaders, I think they were underestimating the potential issues that could happen. I hope they don't happen. They were saying it's a little bit more like a blizzard. Let's hunker down. Let's be careful. Let's wash our hands. Everything's going to be fine. But really what they should have been saying is that, guys, this thing could be a tough winter. This thing could survive for 3 months, 4, 5, 6 months. Let's be smart about this. Let's not just go on as business as usual and wash our hands a little bit more. And the scary part that really got me is when he started talking about coupling. It almost sounds like compound interest a little bit that you might have learned about back in your economics class, when really, 2 people have it, that becomes 4. This is where the coupling comes in, where things are just doubling. We'll use that for example. 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. The alarm is there. We're like, okay, not too bad. But it's when 500 becomes 1,000. 1,000 becomes 2,000, 2,000 becomes 4,000, 4,000 becomes 8,000, so on and so forth. If this thing continues to double, if it continues to couple, we're going to have a lot of people infected here. A lot of people are carrying this stuff and don't even know it and just going out in the streets and doing their thing. They're spreading it to people that might be more susceptible. That's where things get a little bit scary. Now, going to his book then, a few quick things. He pointed out, things, I'm only halfway through it. Not quite halfway. So, I only got a little bit here. And this thing is called Deadliest Enemy, I believe. Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer. These things are killing a lot of people in here. And we spend a lot of our resources trying to solve these things because they just take out a large amount of the population. But, none of those things have the potential to totally destroy commerce, supply chains, bring down hospitals like what happened to Italy. What can do that is that these infectious diseases that can be spread in a hurry. That was one interesting thing. The second part of this is, when they were talking about underestimating, overestimating, people were kind of poo-pooing it, saying nothing's nothing's really to worry about. But really, number one, we didn't know the truth. We didn't know the severity, and I don't even think we still know the severity of it. So number one, we need to know the truth. And then the second part of that is not any one of us does anything worthwhile on our own. So we need to do this thing together. We need to take care of each other to the best of our ability. And if that means, these lockdowns that they got going on state to state, then that's just what it's going to have to be. And we need to do this together, not be selfish, think about the greater good, right? That's what everybody always talks about. A few good things here too that are from here. I mean, this book covers a lot of topics, stuff like toxic shock syndrome. This was written in 2017, 2 years. I mean, China had a little had the coronavirus in 2019, but 2.5 to 3 years prior to all this stuff breaking out. There was toxic shock syndrome. There was disease from raw milk, HIV, smallpox, the flu, pandemics of the past. All of these things are discussed in this book. Talks about the pharmaceutical companies, and you know what, they want to make money. That's the name of the game. They're private companies. So if they can make 20-something billion dollars on Humira, which you give to kids that have, or people that have autoimmune diseases, or you can make $4 billion on I don't know, a vaccine for the flu, swine flu, or whatever's going on right now, coronavirus. It's like, what are they going to choose to do? They're a private company, they're a business, they're going to do that thing. They're not going to put the public health necessarily as their top priority. It's profits to them. And another great quote here was, like Abe Lincoln, this was General Douglas MacArthur. Like Abe Lincoln, I'm a firm believer in the people. If given the truth, they can be depended upon to meet any national crisis. That's kind of where we're at now. If you believe in the American people, which I do, no matter, with all the craziness going on in the world, I still believe that people are going to do the right thing. And I'm hoping that that's what goes on here, so we can get back to work and get back to normal here without this disease kind of devastating our country like it has in other countries. Boom! Coronavirus is done for right now. So, what I do last Friday, I don't even know if my lesson's on for this Friday. I got to call over there. I imagine they're shut down. For my birthday, I got piano lessons. I got a 4-pack of lessons, 30 minutes a pop. I never played an instrument before in my life. My fingers, they don't work the way that they should. It's almost like these two fingers, the two next to the pinky, these two fingers are almost married together. So if I try to do this here, if I try to keep this finger down and the pinky down at the same time and lift these other two, imagine I'm pressing the keys with my thumb with this one and then with this one. These two fingers don't want to stay upright. They want to press the keys too. I got to somehow rewire this brain of mine to kind of figure that out. So anyhow, piano, I'm getting into it. I got to get a jump start because I think my daughter's going to be tearing it up in a few years. So I got to kind of make sure at least I have a general idea on what the heck is going on with this instrument. Like I said, the instructor's awesome. She's a great teacher. She's probably in her 50s, maybe. Sorry, I don't think she's watching this, so we're good to go. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. She's super excited. She's got a beginner. She's got a newcomer. She's got somebody in there trying to learn a little bit, and that's who she wants to work with. So all's going good there. I had a terrible couple nights of sleep last week. So, I don't know, I just woke up a lot, and I can't even blame my daughter or the dogs for it. I was just up. So one day I was up for like 45 minutes from 3 to 3:45. Sorry, I was up late last night watching the end of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So I didn't sleep as well either last night, but that was by choice. So my sleep stunk last week. I was up 2 nights I was up for like an hour the one day from 3 to 3:50, something along those lines, 45 to 60 minutes. I was up. I was like, dude, I might just get up. But with all these people being sick around me, I'm like, you know what? I think rest is probably important. Let me get some rest. So I went back to bed. Then what I realized is that, maybe, just maybe, that CBD oil I was taking might be the key for me to get a good night's sleep. So I ran out of it on, say, Monday or Tuesday, and then I slept terrible like Wednesday, Thursday, tried to slept decent on Friday. But I'm like, man, this stuff really does make a difference. So anyhow, CBD oil, I pick it up from this one company. I mean, you could go to, you could email me, send me a message here, and I could kind of share with you what I get, or you could just check your emails. If I did give you one last week, the weekly word, it's in there. But I get this company. It's liposomal. So it's hitting good. The bioavailability is supposed to be a little bit higher and stuff that hits the liposomes, allegedly anyway. I don't know too much about it. The product's organic. It has a patent, so that means it's been tested. It's THC free. You don't have to worry about failing a drug test, which I think is pretty important for some of you out there. So THC free. It's organic. It has a patent. It's been tested. To me, it works. I was on it, off it before. I think I noticed a difference when I'm on it in terms of sleep. So I'm staying on it. I don't know how much I talked about this in the past, but you know what? The ability, like the body's gonna feel pain and feel stress. If you're feeling pain in your hip, say you're gonna need a hip replacement. There's two men that I'm gonna be talking about here that I witnessed and listened to them speak recently. That I think it's totally huge. So Dan John, 63 years old, I believe. Anyhow, he's over 60. And great coach, fit his whole, or he's a bigger dude, we'll say, but he's a pretty fit guy his entire life, always active, loves working out. And, he needed a hip replacement, and he got his hip replacement, and he lost over 20 pounds almost immediately because the stress that he was feeling, that pain that he was feeling, triggered the stress response in his body, and his cortisol buildup and all this and all that stuff. And he was carrying around significantly more weight around his belly because of that. So that was him. That's a smart guy kind of realizing what just happened, like why he lost that weight was because of stress level in his body, that immune response. He wasn't just so inflamed anymore, and he was able to kind of return as close to the norm that he was prior to having all of these issues with his hips. The second person here was this guy, a guy that I know pretty well. Terrible pain for as long as I've known him. He had a terrible limp. He wanted to hold off on having this surgery for a while, but his mood, man, you knew that he was in pain all the time, and no matter how, he tried, and he was super polite always, but you could just see that he was fighting something, always fighting something. And, just to wake up every day feeling like that and being in chronic pain, I can't play, I don't have any experience with it. But all I know is here, once he had the surgery, I didn't even have to see him. I just heard his voice on the phone. He sounded like a totally different guy. Had the surgery, he's still recovering from it. He still has his hiccups here and there. But his mood and the way that he looks, his face and his belly disappears a little bit. He looks a little bit more lively. He's more rejuvenated. He's more vibrant. His voice sounds so much different. Just sounds like a happier, overall, just a totally different dude. So I'm happy for the both of them. I'm happy they're both feeling well. And it's amazing kind of, what pain could do in terms of your overall health. And, it could potentially set somebody back a few years if they decide that they don't want to get that surgery right away, which I think is what happened to one of these guys that I just mentioned. Anyhow, so, I finished this book, Ordinary Men, Christopher Browning. Recommended from Jordan Peterson like 150 times, so I'm like, I got to get this book. Basically, what is it? It's about a group of ordinary men that decide to that are in this reserve police battalion, and then they do this heinous acts during World War II towards Jewish citizens, we'll say. Terrible stuff, terrible stuff, massacres, what they be considered. And this book talks about two incredibly interesting experiments. Stanley Milgram shock test stuff. Look into this one. Long story short, man in a room, a scientist was telling people, hey, administer a shock, yada, 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 would have them turn the dial, crank it up. How far were they going to push it before this person said, no, I will not do that? He's gotten these people, and then the man in the room was acting, and at the end of it would come out and be like, oh my God, thank you so much for stopping. So the people, when they're doing it, they're like, is this real? I don't even know if this is real. But then at the end of it, the guy's coming out thanking them and all this other stuff. Long story short, he wanted to test out how far, that authority figure could push somebody to do something. And then they tested other things, like where if one person in the room was like, no way, I'm not doing this, 50% of the people would kind of follow that person out of the room. Whereas without somebody speaking up, only like 5 or 10% left. So it was that dynamic where if one person, that one outspoken person, that one hero decides, no way, I'm not doing it, people are going to follow him. Second experiment that I liked was that they mentioned in this book is Philip Zimbardo's Stanford Prison experiment, where once you assign a role to somebody, long story short there, I think it was 10 or 11, 20-something students. 10 of them were prisoners. 10 of them were assigned prison guards. After a few days, they had to cut the whole experiment because those people that they were assigned as prison guards became these evil individuals. They had bags on people's heads. They were making them go to the bathroom in their stalls, and they were just totally treating these people terribly just because they took on the role. They assumed that role as prison guard and just started doing just evil to these people. And Philip Zimbardo, the man that was running the experiment, was the warden, and he got caught up in it, where his girlfriend, who later became his wife, was like, if you don't stop this, I'm leaving you, because he got caught up in it and he was acting cruel and evil to these prisoners. So anyhow, this book kind of talks about that, and the authoritarian, the authority figure, the group dynamic, accepting of roles, pressured into stuff, all of that stuff is kind of thrown in this book, and it's pretty interesting. I'm going to finish with a quote from Stanley Milgram, all right? Control the manner in which a man interprets his world, and you have gone a long way towards controlling his behavior. So if you could figure out a way to control a man's world, which is what happened to this Reserve Police Battalion, which is what happened to Milgram's and his experiments, it's what happened with Philip Zimbardo's prison experiments. If you could control the manner in which a man interprets his world, his situation, you have gone a long way towards controlling his behavior. Once you get that under control, you can start getting them to do the things you want to do. I think it totally applies with this Nazi stuff. I can't tie this back into what's going on right now with the coronavirus, other than the fact that there's a lot of group ideology stuff going on in the beginning of this. And luckily, I'm glad to see that that stuff is gone and people are starting to open their minds a bit and realize that what we got going on here could be something very unique. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Coronavirus, go away. We're trying to get back to work and do some good positive things in the world. But until then, get outside, get your body moving, go hang out with your family more, take some walks, do some yard work. How about that? Get your life in order. Eliminate some of that chaos in your world that might exist in your car, at home. Clean stuff up. Get your life in order so that once this coronavirus stuff it dissipates, then we could get back to business as usual. Peace, everybody.